Anchor Positive Moments, a real skills workshop for a thriving lifestyle. And I tell you, you know, it's an extraordinary thing when you realize that you could go through a whole day where you were surrounded by things that were pretty sweet. And you completely ignored them. I was like, okay, nothing bad here, nothing bad here, nothing bad here, nothing bad here. And that's what I'm capable of. And so this workshop is a potent reminder to me to not just avoid the thorns, but to actually smell the roses. And, so we're going to be touching on a lot of interesting things. And I'm Rick from Thriving Now. I'm here with Kathy Bartuli, Thriving Now and the Intimacy Dojo. Kathy, why is this important from your perspective?
So it was interesting. I was kind of brought up kind of puritanical, like in the sense that indulgence or fun for fun's sake was not useful. And you were just supposed to work really hard and get things accomplished and get things done. And for a long time I lived that. And I also felt kind of dry and like dull and not very engaged with life, kind of moderately depressed. It was just, life was really hard. And, but there's still a part of me that's very utilitarian. Like, why bother like focusing on these positive things? And recently I've been taking a class with Diane Poole Heller, who is one of the experts internationally on attachment. And and some of you may know about attachment theory. It's like early on, we learn what the world, if it's safe to connect to other people or not. And some people are really avoided. Some people are great. And other people are like, oh, I'm going to cling on. So there's like different, and she goes in much more subtlety. And she talked about healing attachment wounds. And she said they're perfectly healable. We can heal these old things. And the number one way they work on this is by noticing positive moments and really letting people absorb the essence of like, for right now, here we all are. We're all safe. There are no bears eating anyone that I can tell. I see beautiful, warm, friendly, smiling faces. If I can let that into my system, if I can really enjoy that moment, that heals some of my old trauma around attaching to people is going to be painful. They're going to ridicule me, laugh at, or they're going to, so like people can have more complex form. Very few of us are one kind or another of attachment. A lot of people like to paint it black and white, like safe attachment people are fine, but the other ones you should stay away from. And it's like, I'll have a mixture. And when we let ourselves really notice, like this moment, everyone here is a really safe person. No one's yelling at me. I'm feeling warm in my heart from spaces. If I can really let myself experience, I can actually heal a chunk of my life. And so for the utilitarian part, like things always should have a purpose. To me, that was like a big aha. And that kind of got me over, because we're going to talk in a little bit about resistance to allowing good feelings. I had a lot of that because it wasn't useful. It was just indulgent, quote unquote. So as I realized that I'm actually, whenever I can let myself enjoy a beautiful moment or the good parts of the moment, and we'll talk a little more too about they're not all pure, perfect. It's not a fairy tale. They lived all happily ever after. We have a mixture of feelings in the moment. Like I'm sitting here really enjoying all of you, and I haven't put the groceries away from before. And so there's like, oh, I wish I'd done that before. I got the perishables away, but the rest isn't put away. And I'm like, oh, and my right leg's a little tight. And I can notice those things and it could suck all my attention. But if I can also let myself be positive, I'm actually healing traumas. So yeah, the more we can let ourselves and train ourselves with muscles to notice those positive moments and allow them in, I do think the universe loves us and it's constantly sending us positive things, even in the midst of really hard times. Judy is here. Judy, I'm probably, you don't mind me saying your name, but we sometimes will text each other little positive things. Just we've known each other for decades, and that's just a lovely little reminder that the universe loves us. And so I think if we can build the muscle to open up and really receive those gifts, then we can withstand life better and we have more to give to ourselves and to others.
And so I hope you're hearing one that we're acknowledging that there's a trauma influence on this, and also when we're in survival mode, especially like if our primitive brain is really active, it's very narrow focused. It wants to know, am I safe enough to survive here? And so what Kathy was inviting is that we look around and we quiet and comfort and soothe and acknowledge, like, what is in my ecosystem right here? Is it okay for me to notice? And we're going to do some EFT tapping in a few minutes on loosening things up in that respect. If you're new to tapping, we're not going to be teaching it in this workshop, but you can go to thrivingnow.com/tapping and get our free guide.
I'm putting that in the chat right now.
Yeah. So, for me, like you said, I can fall into a mode where it's do, check off the list, check off the list, check off the list, check off the list, or try to. And if I run out of gas in that, there's an interesting thing that I've noticed. I can be moving and flowing with creativity or productivity or the combination of the two. And sometimes I will run out of gas. And if you were to look into my energy bucket, right, like you would see that Rick has used a lot of energy in all of that doing and creating. What you wouldn't necessarily notice if I run out of gas is that I didn't put much back in. As I went from moment to moment, I didn't pause and savor. I might feel good about like, oh, it's done, but not like really feeling into
like that 30 seconds. Oh, we got it done, but it's because like
I feel so good about the people that are going to find this course now. It feels so much more refreshed. I tended to things that I didn't realize needed to be tended to, and I did. And it feels really good to have it in this new structure. So one of the things about anchoring positive moments from an energetic standpoint is it's also a deposit. It's a deposit into the core of our energy field. It nourishes, it cleanses, it revitalizes. And then when we're done, it doesn't feel like, I ran out of gas. It's like, I feel complete. And that for me is like one of those things that I watch for. Did I run out of gas or did I tend to my energy? And tending to my energy is like staying from yes to yes to yes to yes. And this particular skill of noticing these moments, these positive energy moments, nourishing energy moments really does make a difference. So like if I forget, if I'm in, you guys see lots of pictures of Adira. You see moments that we've captured. Now, I can take a picture and not spend any time with it. When I do one of our emails and I put that picture in there, I'm spending some time with it. If I don't, it feels flat. It feels like a to-do item, not like really feeling into what is it that she's saying and I'm saying and we're saying together. But if I'm tending to her for like 4-hour break, a 4-hour period of time, I can tell you if I stop and savor moment, 20 minutes of screaming and crying and unhappy and unclear of what she wants, and I am really clueless, but I'm present with her, like, there is a moment in there. And the moment today after that was she got it out of her system and we recalibrated. We went over the couch and she was tired from all of that. And she just rested her head on my shoulder. Just sat next to me and, kind of that emotional anxiety. I was like, baby, I know exactly what that feels like. And, if I do that, well, then my bucket fills up. And if I'm tired and exhausted, that requires more conscious attention. And that's one of the things. When we're stressed, when we're attuned in the world and things that really are very noisy or repulsive or contrast for us, we can go into this place where those things just don't land. If our trauma propensity is to not let them land anyway, well, then we're pushing it further away from our core.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us, and I'm please take this, try it out and see if it fits, but a lot of us, I blame fairy tales. Like we were taught it was going to be perfect. And I often will scramble. I'll just keep going until it's perfect, and then I can relax and enjoy it. But one, I'm exhausted by then. Two, nothing is ever really perfect. And three, I have other tasks to do. So it's like, okay, that was nice. Now on. And there's almost like a holding breath. They're not letting the rain soak in. The muscles are not just soaking in the moment as we go. I'm not recharging my car as I drive it, so to speak. And
would you be willing to lead us in a little tapping on that kind of dynamic as we go into the next section?
Sure. I invite you to take a nice slow deep breath and let yourself kind of relax and open if you're in a safe place and in openness feels right to you. Karate chop. Even though I don't always let the good things in.
Even though I don't always let the good things in.
I think I have to wait until they're perfect.
I think I have to wait till they're perfect.
I may not deserve to have the good things yet.
But sometimes I don't feel like I've deserved or earned the good things yet.
So I have to work harder.
So I have to work harder.
I can't let the moment by moment good things in.
I can't let the moment by moment good things in.
Because? Top of the head. Maybe that's how mom and dad worked.
Maybe that's how mom worked.
Eyebrow. No dessert until you finish your spinach.
No dessert until you finish your vegetables. I like spinach.
Side of the eye. It didn't teach me to savor the vegetable.
It did not teach me to savor anything.
Under the eye. Tolerate this bad thing so you get the good thing.
Tolerate this bad thing so you get the good thing.
Under the nose. They weren't really good at listening to body guidance.
They were not good at listening to body guidance.
Chin. And no one taught them to have muscles for receiving good things.
And no one taught them to have muscles for receiving good things.
Collarbone. In this moment, I'm open to allowing some good things in.
In this moment, I'm open to allowing some good things in.
Under the arm, the kind eyes looking back at me on this video.
The kind eyes looking back at me at this video.
Top of the head, the comfy chair I might be sitting in.
Oh, this comfy chair I'm sitting in.
Eyebrow, the temperature of the air against my cheek.
The temperature of the air against my cheek.
Side of the eye, the fact that I'm doing this silly tapping thing with a bunch of other folks.
The fact that I'm doing this silly tapping thing with a bunch of other folks.
Under the eye, what if I can allow the good things in right now?
What if I can allow some good things in right now?
Under the nose, what if I don't have to earn the secret key to open up to it?
What if I don't have to earn the secret key to open up to it?
Chin, what if I don't have to suffer to feel good?
What if I don't have to suffer first in order to feel good?
Collarbone, I'm open to giving this a try.
I'm open to giving this a try.
Under the arm and allowing some of this good to seep into my cells.
And allowing some of this good to seep deep into my cells.
Top of the head, the universe is bombarding me with love.
Kathy says the universe is bombarding me with love.
If I just tried to open up to it.
What if I tried to open up to it?
And just take a nice gentle breath. Just notice what you're feeling, good or bad. This is a great time to jot something down or notice if there's a tension in your body or a thought in your head. Yeah, buts are a great place to remove blocks. And a lot of us do have a lot of blocks around this kind of thing. When we have learned that it wasn't safe or that we didn't deserve good things when we were little, if we had trauma, or if we had parents that were maybe in a really bad place and it was hard for them to watch us be happy and joyful little kids. Or maybe the contrast, feeling good to crashing down was too much and we wanted to kind of regulate our system
Yeah.
when no one really taught us how to handle that. There's lots of reasons we might have learned to like not allow this in.
So the chat's open if you'd like to share, like, what are some of the blocks to really taking in a moment? And if just whatever comes to you. And I think it's helpful if there was something that, as you look at your day, that you maybe took for granted or just let it pass by, but you're aware that it was there. Like, yeah, that was actually a moment I could have appreciated or anchored. It could have been fleeting. It could have been like, just ask your guidance system, was there anything that I missed? And what's your theory? What in that moment, what had you not anchor it?
Someone shared, knowing I'll be taken down if I'm feeling happy. There's a saying in Australia, I believe, that they said the tallest poppy gets chopped off. And in families, I think, that are kind of toxic and maybe don't have a lot of good ways to deal with positive, like maybe there's some people are in trauma or they're suffering. It's like, how dare you be happy when I'm miserable? Like I learned really quickly if my mom was scowling not to be playing or making a lot of noise, like to be kind of quiet and still. I got a raise and I didn't acknowledge it. I have no idea why. It just kept going. That's like a lot of us, like we were afraid of being arrogant or like self-centered, or how can I have this when so many people don't have much? Like whatever the story is, see if you can ask yourself, why did I do that? What is this? What is the reason? So if you can get the reason, you have some leverage. Your conscious brain is holding on to it. What do you think would happen if you acknowledge that raise? Or if, if you were, who would take you down and why? The experience of pain or agitation makes it difficult. Is it that I'm curious if the experience of pain or agitation is occurring at the same time or because you're feeling good? If we don't have experience feeling good, or we learned that it was dangerous to feel loved or connected or whatever it was, we can actually feel agitation. That's a trauma, a PTSD symptom where we're like, oh, this good thing is anchored to something bad. So if I allow this good feeling, our survival brain gets convinced if I feel good or if I feel loved, that something dangerous will happen. We can actually subconsciously pull it down. We can mix it with things that are painful. So it's good to notice, is it outside things that are making it painful, or is this an internal thing? Is this some part of my system jinxing everything to keep me safe?
I'm drawn to ask that question, like what, how safe does it feel to allow a positive feeling amidst all the other things that are going on?
0 to 10.
So this,
really
10 would be, it really feels safe.
Really feels
right. Safe. And the 2, and you don't have to necessarily have a reason on a question like this. You just allow your being to guess how safe it feels. Like mine's wobbling between a 2 and a 4, which is weird to me because I've been definitely practicing this for the last week, but I also have some physical stuff going on. And I think that like the physical pain combined with positive things, like my logical brain scientist knows that when we let in a positive energy, we produce in our inner pharmacy pain relieving chemicals, the chemicals of healing, the chemicals of life giving vitality. And there's this resistance. And, I've got a trauma history. So, feels like my intuition is that that's playing into this right now. So wherever you are, would you like to do some tapping with us, Kathy, on that?
And someone shared it feels safe. It feels safe to feel positive, but not to share it. So then maybe you can feel it quietly, but not express it. It's also contextual. So when I'm with all of you, I feel pretty safe feeling good. If I'm with my family, the number shifts down, like it feels less safe quickly. So just acknowledge that it could be different in different situations and with different people. So karate chop, even though it doesn't always feel safe to feel good.
Even though it doesn't always feel safe to feel good.
I acknowledge that comes from somewhere.
I acknowledge that comes from somewhere.
And at some point in my life, it wasn't safe to feel good.
And a bunch of times in my life, it wasn't safe to feel good.
I really appreciate the part of me that figured this out.
I appreciate the part of me that figured that out.
And kept me safe all those years.
And kept me safer.
Safer. And I'd like to notice that sometimes it is safe to feel good right now.
I'd like to notice that sometimes it is safe to feel good right now.
Top of that, what if I could allow myself to practice feeling safe?
What if I could allow myself to practice feeling safe?
Eyebrow, and to notice those good feelings.
And to notice those good feelings.
Out of the eye, maybe even tell people about them.
Maybe even tell people about them.
Under the eye, it might feel a little scary.
It might feel a little scary.
Under the nose, but I can take baby steps.
But I can take baby steps.
And then I can practice with the people that are easy to practice with.
And I can practice with people that are easier to practice with.
Collarbone, I know who's safer now.
I do know who's safer not now.
Under the arm, and I can acknowledge some part of me is really scared about doing this.
And I can acknowledge that some part of me is really scared about doing this.
Top of the head, and acknowledge the courage that's taken me this far.
And acknowledge the courage that has taken me this far.
Just take a deep breath. And notice that some part of you has probably been longing to feel good this whole time. And part of you has been so scared because it wants to protect you. There's kind of a bittersweet feeling when I think of that. Like, I think we are designed to feel good. We're designed to want to feel good. There's a dopamine response when we feel good that gives us inspiration and energy to do things. And yet we've been operating like with the throttle turned way down to protect us, to get us through. And we have the capacity to throttle back when we need to. And the key is to notice when it's okay to throttle up and really enjoy what's going on. So we get to play with that and have different, we can turn the knob in different situations. So that gives us a lot more freedom and range.
That is open if something's coming up for someone where you'd like us to do a tapping on an aspect of this. There's one for me that you just said, throttle back. And that feels like really important, like to the point where, throttle back until I stall kind of thing. Not running out of gas. It's actually running out of using energy, right?
Right. But we can also now, as adults, we probably have more choice to leave situations where we have to throttle all the time.
Yeah. Even though in some situations. And with some people, sometimes.
With some people, sometimes.
And with some people, all the time.
And with some people, all the time.
I need to throttle back. I also want to anchor positive moments. In ways that nourish me. Top of the head. Don't you have to throttle back? Eyebrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Side of the eye. With them, you always do. Under the eye. With them, sometimes. Under those. They can't handle someone being happier than they are. Chin. Okay. Well, that's an unwanted reality.
That is an unwanted reality.
Collarbone. But it's not the whole of reality.
It's not the whole of reality.
And I'm teaching my nervous system how to anchor positive moments.
And I am teaching my nervous system how to anchor positive moments.
Top of the head in ways that are nourishing and intimate for me.
In ways that are nourishing and intimate.
And I don't have to share with anyone if I don't want to.
I don't have to share with anyone if I don't want to.
I can still keep a grumpy cat look on my face.
I can still keep a grumpy cat with a gum face. One of the things when you were doing that is there are some people we just know are not safe to share things with. And I've also learned that sometimes I have convinced myself that people don't want to hear it. Some people don't want to know something. And as I've gotten a little more confident and just kind of shared a little bit anyway, that I made a decision based on something that I was imagining they weren't safe to share that with, or they'd be angry or whatever. And maybe it was one or two experiences where I interpreted a look or whatever, and it may not have anything to do with that. So sometimes our survival brain is looking for the maximum safety. So it will kind of pull in the circle of safety if it sees something that it thinks is dangerous. And so our circle can get smaller and smaller. And sometimes when we have a little bit of courage to try that, we may find that when the person may have changed, the situation could have changed, or we misinterpreted it all those years. So
one of the things that you do, which I really appreciate. So let's say I just had a really rough night, right? And Kathy and I talk, and I'm still like woozy from being up since 3 a.m. And, Kathy checks in with me and I share kind of where I am. And what's interesting, because I never would have thought of doing this on my own, but you model it, is you'll say, I have something I'd love to celebrate if you're up for it. And if not, that's totally cool. And often it's like, oh, please do.
Yeah, I love that you're please do, and some people do. They want to be lifted up.
I've said no at once or twice, out of 100 times, but it's, that to me is a way that within our relationship, it allows us to change the energy and not assume that just because one of us has allowed, like we're there for each other and holding space, that space can't also be allowed to shift to something which is beautiful or a celebration or something in another vibration. And that's useful even in great relationships, because sometimes, your partner or your friend can come home and you can tell they don't have a lot of oomph or they're struggling with something. And by checking in, you're giving them the opportunity to feel into, is it really a yes? Would that be uplifting for them to know that amidst all the litter of the traffic coming home, that there was actually something that you want to share that was beautiful? So just as we've developed this as a real skill, there's the permission not to share it. Like, that feels really core to me. The skill of being able to check in and find consensual partners that demonstrate that they like celebrating with us and tuning into those, anchoring a positive moment. And then, and some of the other work that we're going to do about bittersweet here in a bit. Anyone want to? Go ahead, Kathy. Anyone want to share anything? There's one.
So you said do you want to read it or you want me to?
If you would.
My tail ender for the last tap was that I've noticed I don't easily allow myself to feel into feeling nourished. I guess it's foreign. There's simply a block. I don't know why I would feel safe there. Well, I don't know why I wouldn't feel safe there. And one of the things that I invite you to look at, sometimes it's not safe, but the flip side of that is sometimes we've been taught we don't deserve it. So I don't know if that's the case here or not. Maybe it's just foreign and you just haven't had a chance to experience it. What we're unused to often feels scary to our survival brain. And there could be, we've been taught by some people, some of us have been taught that we don't deserve it. How can we feel good when there are people who are suffering? How can maybe we're not good enough person, or we've committed some crime in that person's book. Did you have it looked like you had some tapping.
I'd love for you to do some tapping on the deserving part of it. It looks like that's a confirmation in the chat.
Okay, so the person, yeah, great. So I invite you, this can be tender, so just take a gentle deep breath. And one of the reasons this is tender is because deserving is linked to our identity or self-worth. It's like if we don't deserve it, maybe we're not good enough, or there's all these different reasons in there, but this can be tender. So I just invite you to be gentle with yourself and allow that, if this is sad or there's anger or whatever, it's okay. And let's just gently tap on this. Karate chop. Even though part of me has decided I don't get to have these good feelings.
Even though part of me has decided I don't really get to have these good feelings.
I don't know that I deserve them.
I don't know that I deserve them.
Who am I to have good feelings?
Who am I to have such good feelings?
But I still kind of want them.
I still kind of want them.
Does that mean I'm selfish or bad?
Does that mean I'm selfish or bad?
This is really confusing sometimes.
This is really confusing sometimes.
Because someone taught me that I might not deserve these good feelings.
Because someone taught me I might not deserve these good feelings.
Top of that, what if they were wrong?
Oh, I'm pretty sure that they were wrong, but what if they were wrong?
What if this is confusing because they were confused?
What if this is confusing because they were confused?
Side of the eye, someone may have taught them they didn't deserve good feelings.
Someone may have taught them they didn't deserve good feelings.
Under the eye, or maybe they had some bad experiences.
Or maybe they had some bad experiences.
Under the nose, I want to feel like I deserve good feelings.
I want to fully feel like I deserve good feelings.
Chin, and that's a hard one for me.
And that's a hard one for me.
Collarbone, I don't want to take something I shouldn't.
I do not want to take something I shouldn't have.
Under the arm, but if I allow good feelings, who am I taking from?
I allow good feelings, who am I taking from?
Top of the head, it kind of implies there's only so many.
There's only so many good feelings to go around, right?
Eyebrows, there's only 2 donuts. I can't take 2 donuts.
That's true. If there's only 2 donuts, I can't take 2 donuts.
Side of the eye, but if there's infinite number of donuts, why can't I have as many as I like?
There are infinite donuts. Why can't I have at least 1 or 2?
Under the eye, if I grew up with a family that had a lot of lack.
If I grew up with a family that had a lot of lack and competition.
Under the nose, and a lot of fear.
And a lot of fear.
Chin, I might not have been allowed those good feelings.
I wasn't allowed those good feelings the same way.
Collarbone, there were only so many to go around in their world.
There are only so many to go around in their world.
Under the arm, but if I allow these good feelings.
But if I allow these good feelings.
Top of the head, and walk through the world smiling at people.
And walk through the world smiling at people.
Doesn't that create more good feelings?
Wouldn't that create more good feelings?
What if I deserve all that I want?
I actually can't say that.
Okay.
I don't know why.
What if I could what if I could allow myself to deserve more of this?
I definitely could allow myself to deserve more of this.
Good breath.
Interesting block.
Yeah.
Feels like 14 years old.
I think a lot of us have blocks and that we're taught that there's not enough. And I think in my family growing up, one person was allowed to be feeling good at a time. And it was usually my dad. So like if he felt good and you could kind of tag team with him, then you could feel good too. But otherwise he had to be the most successful, most popular, most whatever. And anyone else feeling good, I think that felt like threatening or like taking away from the limelight. And I don't think many people here feel like they have to have they have to be the only person on stage, so to speak. Like I think a lot of us are very collaborative, sharing people. So if we each share something joyful and we all feel filled up and warm because we're all feeling joyful, then it doesn't actually take away from anyone. It just creates more well-being and good feelings for everyone.
You've described like the difference between a zero-sum game and an infinite game. Zero-sum game, there's only so many donuts. Nobody can make more. And in the infinite game, it's like, how can we share food and nourishment, both the physical kind and the emotional kind, the spiritual kind, all the different flavors, musical kind. There's a lot to that. And if you're aware that like some younger version of you came up, you might just check in, like what was that, what was I not letting in specifically at that time? You don't have to share it if you choose to share it in the chat. And if you're watching the recording, hi, thank you for joining us. There's a comment area or reply that you can post as well to continue this.
Yeah, one of the ways I like to deal with the infinite game, and it's an analogy that seems to help some people, is if I hold my breath, there are people in the world that have very dirty air, or they maybe have some illness, so they can't get enough oxygen easily. But if I hold my breath here, it's not going to give them oxygen. If I deprive myself of oxygen, I'm actually just less able to help them, and it doesn't actually give them oxygen. So if there's only one donut for all of us, maybe we could cut it into little bits and each of us savor it, but nobody gets a donut. Nobody each gets a full donut. But for oxygen, which is really unlimited for most, there's plenty of oxygen in the world. Like holding our breath, depriving ourselves doesn't make that any better for anybody. If I was, as someone shared, if I was so much as laughing, my father would glower at me and my mom, say my name in a threatening tone. I'm so sorry. And someone asked, could you repeat the question, Rick? I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch it. Maybe what?
Sure, which question it was?
The blocks that came up, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the person that shared about the glowering and the name, it's like, that's really scary to our survival brain. There's like, oh, I'm doing something wrong. The person in power in the house is giving me this look and indicating I'm behaving badly. And who knows what lessons that person learned or experienced. But it is really hard to have that kind of reinforcement. And we carry that often. It's especially if it's kind of stuck in our energy system, that the sound of our name and that look, it's like, oh, we might start feeling or seeing that when we start to feel good. And that's a great place to tap. Some inner tapping I love, like going back with the younger self and go, yeah, what an asshole, or however it is, like helping release the energy of that sensation.
Mm-hmm.
Laughter brings tears, as someone shared.
Even though
I
was punished for laughing.
Even though I was punished for laughing.
And laughing is the natural way to anchor a positive moment.
And laughter is often the natural way to anchor a positive moment.
Certainly one of the ways.
It's certainly one of the ways.
So right when I was anchoring a positive moment. Whack.
Whack.
My nervous system remembers.
My nervous system remembers.
My nervous system remembers.
My nervous system remembers.
And so I'm teaching it a different way.
So I'm teaching it a different way.
And that's a requirement for me.
And then
they took the natural anchoring.
They took the natural anchoring.
They punished me. They made things harder on me. And now I'm learning another skill. I really do want to feel more nourished. And feel safe doing so.
Take back my laughter. I reclaim my laughter. You don't get to take it from me.
And laughter and tears are welcome here. um, I'll say sometimes the tears, depending on if they're not like being punished tears, the tears that come from being abused or traumatized, if they're authentic, not quite the right word. If they're tears that flow from that core, this is a meaningful moment. Might not label it as positive, but it's a meaningful moment that includes tears. To me, that also can nourish and fulfill and cleanse me too. There can be a sweetness in those salty tears in my experience. Not so much in the tears of suppressed rage from being, taken out of joy and thrown into something else.
Someone else shared, if I shared something neat and happy to my mother, she'd start telling me all about all her fears and things that could hurt me. And I think that's a way that people that are very scared will try to protect us. They don't want us to be too happy and exuberant. And little kids, when they're really happy and playing, they get very exuberant. Sometimes their prefrontal cortex is not fully formed. They're like kind of high on dopamine and oxytocin and running around. It is a little it can be a lot to be around. It's like, I'm a little tired. And if I had a lot of traumatic experiences, I might be like, oh no, they're going to hurt themselves. This is dangerous. So it's natural, I think, for traumatized or people that don't have good regulatory systems to want to suppress that. And I think it's natural sometimes, just like they're making a lot of, that's a lot of energy, dude. So it can be overwhelming. So it's like, I need to calm down, but hopefully we can do it in different ways than terrifying small children or shaming small children.
Yeah. Would you like to take our break now, and then we'll come back and do the bittersweet and volunteers?
Great. Yeah, it's a good space.
Yeah.
We have another share quickly. When I went when I went to an energy healer, she told me that most of my fears are not my own. Most were my mother's, also my father's. Not sure to differentiate my own fears from those I inherited. And I think that's really challenging because so much of who we are is inherited. Like we absorbed it from being in that environment. So I just try to take all fears rather than try to differentiate. Is this mine or my parents'? I look instead, is this I call it true fear versus a fear. Like, is this based in some reality? And then I try to look at it objectively. Is there something to actually be afraid of logically here? And sometimes it's a mixture. Or am I really exaggerating it? So during parts of COVID, when we were all we were all kind of been inside for so long, the front yard kind of got to be lava for me. And just taking the trash can out, I felt very scary. The germs are going to come get me, or people or whatever. And that wasn't a true fear. That was a fear just because I wasn't used to it anymore. And if someone was out there coughing, I shouldn't go take the trash out right away. Wait till they go by, if that makes sense. So I try to, rather than worrying so much about my fear versus other people's fears, because that can be really hard to parse sometimes. It's is there objective reality in this? Or is it just is this, and again, it could be a mixture. But I found that the floor is lava, so it should that. It's kind of felt like that. But I think that gives me a little bit more ease rather than trying to say that's theirs or this is mine. It's how much of this is real? How much of this is useful? So if that helps, I thought it's a good question.
Okay, we're going to take a quick 7-minute pause here. And if you're watching the recording, I encourage you to take that pause too. Welcome back. So, we focus on emotional energy in our work as kind of an entry point. And when I notice about anchoring a positive moment, that my nervous system, like wherever I happen to land on the neurodiversity scale, um, my nervous system will tend to notice things that are the bitter before it notices the sweet. So,
That makes sense. If there's a snake and you see strawberries, you want to deal with the snake before the strawberries.
right. And I have people in my life that, you know, snake? I didn't even notice. Was there litter there? Are you kidding me? I didn't notice it at all. It was such a beautiful sunset. Man, sorry. That's just the way that things come to me, sensationally. So when someone walks in a room, they might be in a great mood, and I would still notice at some level, like other things that might be going on, my empathy, my visual, my auditory. So whether we call that the bittersweet, or it's a recognition that for me at least, and I know other people that have this propensity too, you can see something like, there's that dog I love, and there's drool coming out of his mouth, and I'm just getting ready for work. Right? You're not a dog person. I am. Like, and so, but then there's the enthusiasm. So, like, there's the drool that's going to get on the clothes, and then there's the enthusiasm for this being that just is so happy that you exist. I use that as contrast. For this example, if we're going to practice this as a real skill, it can be helpful not to pick something that is just really raw and tender, more something that you find yourself having a feeling or a reaction initially to it that maybe you don't get past. You don't actually get to the happy dog, it's drooly face. You don't get to the, wow, they look really happy and beautiful. And as someone I care about, I am so delighted for them that they got this experience. You look at the picture on Facebook and it's like, I miss them so much and I wish I was there. And like, there's the pain, and you never actually get beyond that. That's, if I am not using my skill, I will stay there, or I'll bounce off of it. Like, oh, okay, they look good. You see, like, I take all of the juiciness out of it by trying to tamp down the emotional reaction. Does this make sense? Is this just something that you experience sometimes too? You know, that you'd be really happy that somebody's coming over, but they're having a big rough time in their life, and it's hard to like hold both of those at the same time.
Or I'm scared what they'll think after I've gained 20 pounds in COVID, or that I'm also feeling scared of seeing them and I want to see them. Like, I think there's that split, some people call it the split screen, where there's a good thing and the negative thing. And most of us have been taught that things are very black and white. Like, it's either good or bad, make up your mind, versus what's really
brain interpretation.
Yeah. And we're kind of like, are you happy about it? And it's like mix. Like, the thing, I'm going to a camp next week that I love. It's my favorite thing in the world. Be outdoors with really cool people. And I haven't been around a lot of people like that. And I'm a little nervous. And like, we have the positive, I can't wait to do this. And oh my God, what if it doesn't go well? What if there are people that don't like me? So I think a more mature way is this kind of, they're both. How can we be with both? Yes, and this good and this bad. And like, I think it does take some emotional maturity, I think, to allow that. And it's also really challenging because we don't see that modeled in our world. If you watch TV, things are either good or bad. And if there's litter in the field of butterflies, then it's just crap. We should just like, oh, never mind. Versus, oh, there still are amazing butterflies here, and there's litter, and I can either notice it and just be with it, or I could, pick it up or whatever.
This skill works for me best when I'm doing it in the moment. So we can sometimes take ourselves back to that moment. That's one of the beautiful things about our minds. We can imagine like, oh, this was when I was with them. And I was feeling like we only have so much time left and I'm starting to feel anxious and this is where to recondition ourselves a bit, we can go, oh, yep, that was a thing. And do something like, even though I've picked up something painful here.
Even though I've picked up something painful here.
And it's taking me out of this moment.
It's taking me out of this moment.
Or it's an aspect of this moment.
Or it's an aspect of this moment.
That's also true.
That's also true.
Top of the head. It's also true.
It's also true.
Eyebrow. And I don't want to miss the moment.
And I don't want to miss the moment.
So part of me skips over the moment.
Part of me skips over the moment.
Under the eye. It can be both.
It can be both.
Under the nose. It can be both at the same time.
It can be both at the same time.
Chin. Thorns and the flower.
Thorns and the flower.
Hold on. Happy to be with them.
Happy to be with them.
Aware that it's going to end.
Aware that it's going to.
All the things that can be there at the same time.
All the things that can be there at the same time.
And my body wants to anchor some positive in there too.
And my body wants to anchor some positive in there too.
My whole core wants to anchor the positive in the moment.
My whole core wants to anchor the positive in the moment.
I saw the cat look up into the video like, oh yeah, yes, I'm here. You know, anchor the positive. Yeah.
I think that I sometimes also have a sense of wanting to protect myself. I don't want to let the, it feels like if I experience the negative, like I kind of want to protect myself from the negative versus accepting reality as it is. There's like I don't want that to let that into my energy field, but it's there.
It's there.
It's there, and me pretending or suppressing it like a beach ball underwater is not going to help. So there's a lot of times we kind of go through life protecting ourselves a lot, or like writing off. I have to admit I do this for people sometimes. Sometimes I'll feel overwhelmed at a conference or whatever. There's a lot of people. And I'm like, oh, that person made that comment, so I'm going to write them off as a human. They're not potential friend material. I'll exclude people like that versus like, oh, why can't I just be here with who's here? Why do I have to eliminate people from my potential friend or talk to zone? And it's a way for my brain when it feels overwhelmed to eliminate certain things or control. But it's not necessarily a wise way to do it. And it's not always a compassionate way to do it. And there are certain people I just don't want to be friends with. I'm certainly allowed to have that choice.
I'd like to invite an exercise for us to each pick something where there is a positive moment. You're aware of the positive moment. Maybe you're feeling it a little bit, maybe not so much. Maybe you really are aware of it. And there's also another aspect to it, the bitter with the sweet. If something can come to you like that, if you're someone who writes things down, that would be like, what's the bitter? I'm not there with them. That's mine. What's yours? And what's the sweet?
And one of the things I've noticed is people that have, either in our society, people that are bigger are often considered not like, people will say, I'll enjoy it once I lose weight or once I get fit or once I stop smoking, or one of those things that we don't want to be. It's like, I can't enjoy this until. That might be something to notice, that if you're doing some of that,
Hmm. And feeling into where does your energy mostly go just by default? Is it toward the bitter part of it or toward the sweet part of it? Like the bitter part right now, I did not tap on this. Um, Something that happened, I guess, Saturday for me. I left it sort of untended. Um, and I feel my energy going mostly to the bitter part of it, the the feelings that that evokes. And there's a part of me that wants to pull away, but as soon as I pull away, the sweet part of it is gone. It becomes very fuzzy. Um, this, you know, each of us have an energy system around these things. Noticing it is part of the skill. Like how am I with this particular bittersweet um, memory? Okay. And what I do is I'll tap on the bitter part of it first. Just a quick round to see how it responds, even though I have some bitter feelings about this.
Even though I have some bitter feelings about this,
I accept where I am and how I feel about it.
I accept where I am and how I feel about it.
Even th- Even though this is a bigger deal than I probably want to cope with right now.
Even though this is a bigger deal than I really want to cope with right now.
I'm acknowledging and accepting that there's some bitter feelings.
I'm acknowledging and accepting that there are some bitter feelings.
And it's okay.
And it's okay.
It's okay to have those feelings.
It's okay to have those feelings.
Pop your head. I've got some bitter feelings here.
I've got some bitter feelings here.
Eyebrow. Oh, I've got some bitter feelings here.
I've got some bitter feelings here.
Side of the eye. And they're uncomfortable
And they're uncomfortable.
under the eye. Not exactly sure what to do with them.
Not exactly sure what to do with
Under
them.
nose. And it's okay.
And it's okay.
It really is okay.
It really is okay.
I want to anchor this positive moment too.
I want to anchor this positive moment too.
There's something here for me.
There's something here for me.
And I want to feel that vividly.
And I want to feel that vividly.
And then, if your consciousness will allow you, just pivot a bit, holding the awareness that the bitter's there and it's okay, and pivot toward what is the positive moment. And if it's a visual experience, allowing it to like notice, like what color, what's the expression, what's the tone to it. If it's auditory, like I saw a picture, but I can imagine a sound with it too, because I'm so auditory. And I didn't do that before. I was very focused on how this person looked. Like there's a glow. And like I can feel it now. I can feel the glow because I'm also feeling for the kinesthetic of it as if I'm a part of it. Remember, my bitter was I wasn't there. And now I'm allowing myself to feel a part of this experience. And then taking a deep breath. And it can be really helpful because so much of this happens up in our cortexes and the like up in our head. To feel where in your body it would anchor, like anchoring it in my heart, my belly, my knees, and use your hands to find the places where you can be with that. And another breath. And notice now, like, how's your energy feel about this? And now, as you feel the energy drawing you, like I can actually feel my body rocking toward what I'm calling the positive aspect, the sweet part of this moment that I took in. And my awareness of the bitter part is still there in the same way that when we do trauma healing with tapping, it it changes its energy. And in that there's a healing, we're allowing some movement and resolution. If there are other aspects to come up, no doubt it will come up later, or another time in another context. But it feels like now I'm anchoring this. And if you had an experience that you'd like to share, you can put it in the chat. You can even raise your hand. Under reactions, there's a raise hand. Just remember, we're recording. Anything you'd like to share with that, Kathy?
I really love that. Thanks for sharing that. One thing I noticed for myself when you were talking about that is sometimes I will direct, if I'm angry, but I don't feel safe being angry with other people, I'll redirect it at myself. And so, like, if you haven't been allowed to feel good and there's some anger about that, and then that can be totally legitimate, like feelings are legitimate. No, that may be one of the reasons, like, if you don't want to feel the anger towards someone else, like you might block yourself from feeling good. Or for myself, sometimes I'll like, well, I didn't get to feel good all that time, so I'm just not going to allow myself now, like kind of a self-punishment kind of thing. That I'm really angry at other people, but I'm going to kind of direct that anger at me because that feels safer than actually being angry at those people. Does that make sense?
Since you're tuned to it, do you want to lead a tapping for anyone that applies to?
Karate tap. Part of me is kind of pissed about this.
Part of me is kind of pissed about this.
I missed out on a lot of good feelings.
I missed out on a lot of good feelings.
They screwed it up for me.
They screwed it up for me.
What were they thinking?
What were they thinking?
So now I'm just not going to feel good ever.
So now I'm just not going to feel good ever again.
You can't make me.
You can't make me. I feel like 3 or 4.
I'll punish you by punishing me.
Ouch. That's true. I'll punish you by punishing me.
Eyebrow. You didn't let me feel good.
You didn't let me feel good. There was no space for me to feel good.
Yeah, so I'll suffer forever to show you.
So I'll suffer forever to show you until you realize it.
Yeah, I blame you, but I'm afraid to blame you.
I blame you, but I can't blame you.
Under the nose. So I'm just going to hold it inside.
So I'm just going to hold it inside where it takes up all this space.
Until you notice and apologize.
Until you notice and apologize.
Collarbone, part of me really does want to feel good.
Part of me really wants to feel good.
And the other part of me is really pissed about this.
Part of me is really pissed about this.
Top of the head. And what if I can use that anger in positive ways?
And what if I can use the anger in positive ways?
And not just direct it at myself.
And not just direct it at myself.
Deep breath. Just notice what comes up for that, around that for you. Because anger is one of those things we tend not to deal with really well.
And as you said, I mean, even in the just essential, I'll use a less personal example. Still personal. So I was writing the newsletter on bitter and sweet, and it's like 5:30 in the morning. But I slept well. And with everything that's going on inside of, my eyes and my nervous system right now, that's great. I felt pretty good. And I went to duplicate the old email and the system crashed. Not my computer, but the emailing system just didn't do it. And as you were tapping, I'm reminded like the bitter there is like, if you're going to do creative work, sometimes the technology doesn't work, the tool fails, the paint doesn't set, or I don't know, anything that you do, a guitar string breaks right as you're about to channel this amazing song. And and having a way of acknowledging, like I'm tapping as I'm telling the story, I'm acknowledging that, I actually didn't let in how meaningful it was for me to have this bittersweet, because it's something that like, oh, it's a bittersweet memory, but I never parsed it out energetically into the bitter and sweet. And for me, like all day long, this has been really helpful. But because there was unresolved anger for the technology, I didn't really take in that until now. And I would say that that's one of the beautiful things, is that we can have things that were blocked by anger, resentment, and the like. And when we do this, apply this skill to it, acknowledging it, and then turning toward the positive energy that was there, that we get to harvest it even much later, perhaps even decades later. So anything else for us tonight, Kathy? Anyone else that wants to share something in the chat?
Over or thoughts about this?
We are perfectly fine letting things come to a close when they come to a close, or the top of the hour, or whatever's right.
And this might be a perfect place where you might like, oh, it's kind of sad. I like this group. And oh, I would also like 15 extra minutes for myself. Just notice that we can feel both at the same time. We can enjoy the beauty of like this lovely connection where people are sharing openly and intimately and it feels warm and safe. And also, freedom and extra, like it would be 13 minutes that I didn't know I was going to have for myself. What could I do with that?
Our community, our circle, we want to continue this kind of engagement. I'm really curious what's alive for people. It's been sort of quiet, and I understand that. And Kathy and I are going to be scheduling our calls for June, our workshop calls for June.
Yeah, let us know topics.
And beyond. So we have some ideas, and we're very open. ThrivingNow.center is a place where you can continue this conversation and engagement, share your insights, your own wisdom, and I really appreciate, even though the community center participants is a small core group right now, that I visit every day, and I take something from the sharing. When someone shares their art, when someone shares an insight, when someone takes like, oh, when you said this, it took me here. That is the kind of engagement, I believe, that will help nourish. Those are really positive moments for me. And when I let them in, and I'm letting them in right now. So thank you for those that choose to participate there.
And for being here, like this is a stretch. This is one of those, it stretches in a good way to explore this, but it's not where we think of, like most people would think of as where I need to go. But I think this is one of the kind of exercises that can be really powerful and add a lot of joy to life.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy your 12 minutes.
Bye.